if you're brave or foolish enough to think the snow looks fun, just be aware of the consequences. This happened on an easy drop. Nothing hard, just riding a few donuts because I thought it'd be fun. Broke the bike, gonna have to fix it. I mean, this stuff is brittle anyway. I can get another one, but makes me sad. I do want to encourage you guys to get out in cold weather. Maybe not this kind of cold weather, but some cold weather. So today I'm gonna drop my top tips for keeping warm while on your ride.
The number one thing to think about when you're riding in cold weather, assuming it's safe and there's no possibility of ice, is getting the correct gear. And it all starts with something good to wear along your chest to keep your core warm. That type of gear isn't terribly expensive. You can get some moderately expensive stuff that's really good. The price point does matter, and the more you pay, the more you get, but incrementally, you don't get as much bang for your buck as you go up in price levels. And luckily, a lot of the mid-priced adventure jackets that are waterproof tend to be good for cold weather as well. The waterproofing that they use isn't quite as breathable as normal, which is a good thing in the winter, because it repels the wind and keeps wind out, and that's the main name of the game, is to keep your body heat in and keep the wind away from your body. The jacket I prefer, and I've been using a long time, this is my second set, is the Alpine Star Dry Andes. It's a good jacket, costs between $250 and $285. It's mostly waterproof. It looks okay. Obviously, textile adventure jackets are kind of the dad gene of the motorcycle world, but they really do the job. They have a high neckline that keeps a lot of wind off your neck, and they cover your whole torso going down below your belt line. So it covers all the parts where clothing would come apart, or you'd have areas where wind could hit the body. And it's reasonably priced too. $250, $280 isn't an extreme amount of money when we're talking about motorcycle gear. Where these mid-level jackets or lower tier jackets fall down is on this liner. It's really not that great. It's kind of piss poor because, well, it zips in. Everywhere there's a zipper or a cool spot, a lot of times that's where the seam is on the liner, and it doesn't help you keep wind out so much. But there's a solution for that: layers. If you're an outdoors person or been outdoors a lot, you know layers can really help you. What I like to do is throw a hoodie on underneath this, just a standard hoodie. Typically I'll use a athletic fleece type from either Adidas or Under Armour. Those are good quality, and there you've got 2 layers. With this is the outer shell and wind protection and some moisture protection, and then a fleeced hoodie. You'll be as warm as you can be. One piece of kit that I've suggested to newer riders a lot, and I used myself probably, I don't know, maybe a decade ago, is a first gear jaunt. I just looked on one of the motorcycle closeout places, and it's still available. The Generation 1, it's heavy, it doesn't look great, but it really is waterproof and sheds wind nicely. And when I looked, it was $110 online. It's a deal as long as you can get past it's rather dated, and that's putting it nicely. Look, in the winter, don't mess around. You need a full face lid. Preferably you can get some with a pinlock visor that keeps the fogging down. But one thing you may not know, some motorcycle helmets anyway, like this Scorpion AT950, have a shield for themselves that you just line up right down here. There you go. And you have a windshield that keeps the wind from coming up into your face. Really works out well in the colder weather. These are the boots I wear. They're the O'Neill adventure, what they call kind of an adventure style boot. They're not quite as hard as a dirt bike boot. They're a little bit flexible, yet they're still waterproof, and they keep the wind out. And that's essentially what we're doing again with the cover, is we're putting a waterproof windbreaker. I like a tall boot, and with a long pant, you put your pant over this boot, and it really keeps all the wind out, keeps all the moisture out. That's what this barrier does. And I add just a simple wool sock in there for insulation, and it keeps me warm on most rides. However, I'm about to try electric socks. There's these new electric socks that are lithium battery based. They charge out of a USB port, which is already on my bikes, and there's an app that watches the battery and is temperature control. I want to see how they work. Usually I don't like electronic heating gear on my motorcycle. Let's get outside, get ready to get on the DRZ, and I'll pick that up from there.
If that charging system fails, that electronic component fails, the materials around those suits are not conducive to keeping you warm without the electronics, and that can put you in a real bind when you're out in the winter.
And while this next comment is limited to winter gloves, I don't know if it's because I take my hands in and out of my pockets all the time, I use them a lot, but almost every inner lining starts to rip on me after a season, maybe 2 seasons. And so I don't spend a lot on a winter glove. I'm just going to tell you what I look for. I look for a high cuff, again, where I can put it over my jacket to keep the wind from going up my sleeve as a wind barrier. I do like a waterproof glove, though I'll tell you almost none of them are particularly waterproof after a couple of hours riding, and certainly not waterproof after lasting 60 or 90 days. The hands are just too dexterous that I've not really found a good winter cold gear pair of gloves. If you've got a suggestion, shoot it to me. I'd love to hear about it. They just tend to not be waterproof for me, and then they tend to fray on the inside, and so that at the end of a year or two, I'm ending up replacing them anyway. That's it for my favorite bits of gear in the winter. Overall, I ride down into about 30 degrees of weather. I don't generally journey out when it's really slick or if I know there's ice on the road, but there are techniques that can keep you safer while you're winter driving. It's always possible you're going to run into slick spots, and it's just a risk you take riding year-round. I'll ride down to 30 degrees. I've ridden colder than that, but I don't like to. That's all for this week's drop, some gear I use, and maybe you can find some nuggets of information. Until then, see you on the road.